All right, we're live.
Perfect. All right. So in the article about making difference matter, there was examples of what did he call it? Where's the word? Assimilation, differentiation, and integration. Did you see those three? What's the
Uh-huh.
word that they called them? Parad-
Paradigms.
Paradigms. Yes. So I'm supposed to ask each of you to describe one.
Okay. Well, hold on.
Oh,
All of a sudden, I can't find my notes. So, Barry, you go first. I'll be right back.
Okay. Um, Sorry, what are we doing?
describing one of the paradigms in that making differences matter.
Um, I read it kind of late last night, so it's all a little fuzzy. Um,
Well, I'll
I
do.
guess just
Oh, go ahead.
I just guess just starting with the first one, the discrimination and fairness paradigm. Um, Basically, what I got from it wasn't much, but yeah, I don't remember much from it. It was about 1 in the morning when I was reading it, so it was pretty fuzzy.
Yeah, it's a lot of material that I'm trying to pull out what's important, and a lot of stuff that I'm like, this doesn't seem like it's important. So I'll go with the assimilation, and that's the discrimination and the fairness that we're all the same. Um, differentiation is we celebrate differences, and it said that have you seen an organization where they used one of these?
Uh, this was a hard topic for me because um, I don't really see that. I've never seen this.
Mhm.
I've never, at least to my face, I've never had to deal with discrimination based on my race or, people make comments, haha, you're a woman, but I don't. I was taught if it's not something important, you just ignore it. Um, but I worked in a place where I think people companies can swing too far the other way, and I think you need to really, um, for example. Oh, I'm sorry. This is so early. Um, I'm rambling now. Okay, so I think they can try too hard, and so then go they hire based on let's make everyone diverse, and they don't worry about education. They're not as good. My husband had to hire one time, and when we lived in San Francisco, and he's Hispanic, and he doesn't like he's like the most Americanized person you can ever find, and but he on purpose just so he didn't get accused of favoritism or whatever. He went through all the resumes, and when he narrowed him down based on education and skill level and et cetera, he on purpose hid, names and things like that, and let his boss do the final pick. But I always thought that's funny. He works in the IT, and so the test for the employment was there was a test hidden in a computer, and you had to at least have basic skills to be able to find the file. So I always thought that was funny that he hid it on the computer. So
Huh. Interesting. I think you make an interesting point about people that name their children kind of different things, and just by looking at that name, you kind of assume or think, oh my heavens, I know their nationality or I know a little bit about them. For example, my sister, we're very white. She named all of her children like Kalisha, Kiana, Kazdan, which has a different ethnic.
It sure does.
And so when you hear those names and stuff, I've had friends ask, did she marry a different nationality? And I'm like, no, she didn't. And so just by looking at the name, I can see where people would automatically assume different things.
Oh, that is interesting. Well, I have to say, when we named our children, we on purpose wanted names that didn't sound too ethnic, because we didn't. I don't know why. Well, so like my daughter's name's Olivia. It's Latin based, and we wanted to acknowledge that heritage, but at the same time, I didn't want to do like Santa Maria, you know. But because I wanted to also be true to my own heritage, you know. And then for our son, his name is Malachi, and he's actually named after my husband's grandfather, who his name is Malachias in Spanish. And I would have done that, but my husband wanted to go the English sounding, so we just did Malachi. So I guess we do it no matter, you know.
Right. Just by influences that are around you, it just kind of happens.
Yeah. I think, I don't know, this is kind of a loaded topic for me in many ways. But I am definitely a fan of diversity. However, I think as a nation and as a culture, we take it way too far the other direction.
I agree. But I think that's really easy for us to say as Caucasians.
Mm-hmm.
I have a niece that her boyfriend is African American, and he's actually currently in the middle of a lawsuit against the county of Monterey in California for discrimination.
Wow.
So, you know, and it's not done yet. So I guess it's real, you know, and I've never lived like that. So maybe I'm oblivious.
I think you can find discrimination anywhere you go if you look for it.
Right.
Well, like those cases, some of them, like that one where the Middle Eastern,
Mm-hmm.
they had valid concerns about his management skills, but because of that manager making comments,
Right.
I said I have personally voted that he probably would win.
Right, exactly. I thought the same thing. I mean, it's one thing to have it there and that type of thing, but since the management themselves were making those kind of comments to him and belittling him and that type of thing, I think he had more of a leg to stand on than just, I feel like they are talking behind my back, and that type of thing.
Well, and I think also, like, the same example, they shared the example where they tried to accommodate him and then he didn't even show up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you can't throw a fuss and then and not take advantage of what people are doing for you. And then sometimes you can't read into things. You know, like, for example, I was young and I worked with this girl. We were in, it was right after high school, you know, and she was Asian, I'm Caucasian, and we were pushing carts, and she crashed, and I laughed, and I said, "Aha, Asian drivers," and I got written up for being, and I thought I was just making it funny. It's still to this day, I don't see how it was not funny.
Right. And here's the thing is, if she would have said that about you, oh, Caucasian drivers, blah, 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 then you wouldn't have thought anything more of it, I don't think.
Yeah, I would have laughed at her and kept on going.
So I know that I've heard also that there's companies that have like a checklist where, oh, we need so many, you know, we need a Hispanic, we need a black, we need, you know, so they kind of go through the checklist, and they may not be looking at education and that type of thing. They're just looking at trying to make their quota of their one person that's of that so they can meet the report or whatever. And I think that's sad when there may be somebody who's more qualified.
I think it just comes down to you really have to document that my decision was based on these factors,
Mm-hmm.
and that the best qualified person got the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now sometimes
The job postal say they're looking for women.
back to the example of my husband, this kid totally passed with flying colors, and they hired him, and this is when I was pregnant with my daughter, and all of a sudden he had really crappy work ethic. Like he wasn't showing up, and it was very stressful. Like because we were getting ready to have our baby, and he needed someone to cover while he was on maternity leave with me,
Mm-hmm.
and so, but then they had to start documenting, his absence, not calling in. That's when you have to get HR involved and do it the right way and make sure because he also was Asian, and not that it had anything to do with it, but they had to cover their butts essentially, so he
Right.
couldn't come back and say, "Oh, you fired me because I was Asian."
Right. Right. All right. So in that Color Brave,
Mhm.
did you guys listen to that?
It was
did.
very interesting, and I thought she was actually kind of it was a little harsh.
What about it did you see that was harsh?
I don't know, just her presence, and again, maybe if I was watching it as a African American, I would be like, "That's so empowering." I was a little, taken back. I mean, like, I didn't really feel like it supported her point of view. Like, she talked about it, but I don't know and maybe that's just me not paying as much attention or something. I didn't feel like she really gave examples on how to be color brave. She just said you had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not watch it. I listened to it in my car, and so I did not see her presence. I just heard her voice and stuff, and I felt bad for her when she's teeny and her mother's like, "How did they treat you?" And it's interesting that right from the start that her mother is coaching or encouraging or trying to be a filter for that right from the very beginning.
Well, again, because I don't come from a culture that has been treated that way, that was very offsetting to me. Like, why would they?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe her mom has a very valid experience. I'm sure she does. Because she's old enough that her mom probably was full on in the. And it is shameful of what has happened in the past. People should not be judged on the color of their skin. They should be judged on their actions and their choices.
Right.
Like affirmative action. My husband actually, as a Hispanic, is very against affirmative action. He thinks it's stupid and it's done more damage. And people are so taken back that as a Hispanic, he feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, just like other, I also kind of feel this way about unions. There was a time and a need for it because people were not hiring completely based on, sex, religion, and color. But I agree with Barry. It's gone too far. It's swung. So, I mean, they are so quick to claim discrimination.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that's why it's important as an HR person that we are, if we're in a management position, that we we check ourselves and make sure that our comments are what we're talking about with our employees or coworkers is based on skill and not on racially motivated. Because even casually, how quickly is it like, oh, typical Middle Eastern, his wife he's got 10 wives, it comes like that, like, will get you in trouble.
Right.
Even though they're off the cuff, supposed to be funny.
Right. Well, it's hard, I think, too. Like, I'm thinking about my own current situation at work, where it's very small. There's only 6 of us in the office, and yeah, some of these laws, they said something about that it's only for, or I guess that's sexual harassment that I read, but we're joking with each other, and at what point is it no longer a joke?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not making fun of me necessarily for being Mormon or my religion and stuff, but there's still, not so much here, but there's comments about, oh, you can't do that, you can't come out with us, you can't, those type of things that I don't really care one way or the other, but I could see where that could be considered religious discrimination in some cases.
You're right. And yet we would be expected to suck it up.
Right.
I have a friend whose husband's a lawyer, and he handled a case where he actually took it on pro bono because he was a member of our ward, and he was a firefighter, and they would like make comments like, "Oh, you wearing your magic underwear today?" And then your real name must be Jebediah because you're more, like some Bible name, like it was just stupid, but he had lots and lots of documentation but he didn't really sue until it became a pay, like he was passed over for.
Ooh.
And so maybe he was validly passed over for a promotion, but because they had made all these other comments, he took it to suit.
Yeah. I think it's important to, I don't know, reading through those case studies, one thing I was thinking about as I was doing it was it's important to bring it forward, to actually communicate. I know as a society we're very terrible at actually communicating, especially when it means there could be some confrontation. I mean, if it bothers us, say something about it.
I agree.
Before it really becomes a problem, especially with the case study with the Muslim. It was he never said a word about it.
Uh-huh.
They were very accommodating to him, and he never said it bothered him. He never said, "Please don't make those comments." Or
right.
I know I've worked construction and agriculture my entire life, and it's a very, I don't know, if there's a comment to be said, it has been said, and most of them don't bother me, but when it crosses the line, I actually do. I will say something, and in doing that, I find 98% of the people that I ask to not make comments like that, they will stop. They'll no longer make them, and they respect me more for it.
Right.
I agree. I think to build off of Barry's comment, it's about education. And why do we all have to jump to level 10? Let's educate our coworkers, or hey, not cool. My underwear is sacred. That's none of your business. Like, why are you talking about my underwear? And educate them a little bit, and they don't even realize that their comments were actually inappropriate or.
Right. I found that with swearing, because I work with a lot of younger children, or kids, sorry, they're teenagers or whatever. They swear a lot, and they don't even realize they're saying it. And so I've had to say, okay, you need to not talk like that in front of me. And then they've been really great about, oh, I'm so sorry, or, Steph's here, or whatever. But this is my second HR class because it didn't transfer, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, in my other one, they had a case study where this couple was engaged, they were at work, and they were kissing in the break room, and this new employee came in, and she actually sued them for sexual harassment because of the couple was kissing in the break room. And I think it's back to what you said, Barry, of just speaking up and saying something. If she had just gone over and been like, hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable, rather than jumping to somebody said, jumping all the way over to number 10 of being like, oh my heavens, I'm so offended. If she would have just said something like, hey, then they would have been like, oh, I'm so sorry, whatever. But yeah, we jump all the way to the end of
like what happened to a warning, or like, oh, well, I worked at a place one time right out of high school, and what happened was we were I worked there, and I was told you can't date your coworkers. And so a guy and I secretly were dating. Well, then I left, so then we were openly dating. Well, then I came back, and so they just made so I had, on my first day back, my manager put us on the same break schedule, and he's like, and he jokingly looked at me and went, ha ha ha, make sure you don't come back late, implying that we were going to go full around on her. And, you know, so based on, like, I could have,
Right.
but, you know, like, I just let it roll off my shoulders and like, whatever, dude, you know. But technically, he was in the wrong. He shouldn't have made even the comment like that.
Right.
And we were never put on the break schedule together ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, as your manager, yeah, I think that was very inappropriate for him to say that. If it was your coworkers, you're walking out together, you know, that's, you know, your friend may have made that comment and then...
Well, kind of like your comment, like when we get friendly, we start teasing each other, and we all know teasing can turn inappropriate very quickly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's see where we are, and then let's wrap this up. Okay, so one of the things that John Skipper said, he was asked, do you hire minorities or the person who is best qualified? And he answered yes. And do we believe that this is the right approach to hiring for diversity? I think we've kind of mentioned that yes. That I really liked your comment about how your husband covered the names of the resumes and just went by the facts in the resume. So I think that's kind of like what he's talking about.
Well, I would take his comment to what comes first, that you're hiring a minority or you're hiring the best for the job, and it just so happens. You know, I think that's the mentality we have to have. Is we are absolutely open. But, you know, our first goal, our first priority should be what's best for the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And I really do think it's, does this person meet the qualifications, and what will they be the best for the company? And really keeping a company perspective on it, not a okay, we're going to get government subsidies because we hired a Latino, an Asian, and a black, you know, in comparison to a white person that could actually make the company grow. You know, if those other people didn't have the qualifications needed. So.
Yeah.
I think, well, to build off of that, I just had a thought. I think also, when we are in the positions of management and whatnot, there's going to be a day where we do a review, and we need to make sure that our reviews and our paperwork back up promotions based on skill. Because that seems to be where people get mad, is when they get passed up for a promotion. And then they start looking, hey, so-and-so got promoted, and they've only been here for 6 months.
Right.
Like, I worked for this company out in California that was bought out, and the new company's policy was they wanted to hire people with bachelors. Didn't matter what their degree was in, they just wanted to have a bachelor's. And they would say verbally, oh, we promote within blah, 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 it's based on skill. But it very quickly, it was the ones that had bachelors that would move up faster. Yes, occasionally there was one or two that didn't have a degree that would move up to, you know, like an assistant manager or whatever. But I thought that was interesting. That's what.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think a lot of that is left up to the employer. Like, if these are the expectations set of you, then you need to meet those expectations. Like, I understand that I understand the laws. But at the same time, I still think that the employer does have some leeway. I mean, you know, you're going to show up to work on time. You're going to, you know, do this, and this. So, yeah, it's kind of like that case study with the firing Smith. I think it was the last one. The black guy, and his manager is black, and he says, "Look, because you're black, I expect more out of you." And I don't know. For me, that case study, I can really see both sides of it because I'm from Missouri and I've worked in Kansas City a good amount, so I know the culture there, and I also know if you're black coming in, you're going to have to prove yourself because of the culture you came from.
Interesting.
Um, and
On that particular one, I thought the company was in the right until the very end, where the comment was they were essentially the same, but I went with these two guys.
Uh-huh.
I really felt like they kind of set him up, just based on the information we were given. That, here they are like, oh, you have to pass this test, but then the test was only one person's opinion, and it wasn't even like a skill level; it was an opinion.
Right.
To watch a presentation and grade someone on the presentation it's an opinion, and opinions come and go, and they all change. It's not like they made him sit down and take a test on this product, and it was black or white, or either you know the product or you don't know the product. Answer these questions. I thought that for me was the clincher of the case, was that last part where I thought they handled his testing part inappropriately.
Yeah, I agree. It was interesting, and I thought that they also wanted him to take a class too, but it didn't seem like they were encouraging him or giving him time, like saying, okay, now you need to go and take the class or whatever. But I must have misunderstood that maybe.
I don't know. Go ahead, Barry.
I don't know on that one because he was given in the case study. They talked about how it's just you're supposed to complete all the tests for the products within 3 months, and he was at 7 months and hadn't completed any of the tests.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. For me, if I went into a company and my boss sat me down and said, "Okay, I expect more out of you than every person on the sales team," for whatever reason,
You would have stepped up a little bit.
I would have stepped up. I would have worked harder than everybody else, and done the job.
Right.
Well, I agree that what was kind of shady about that whole example was the fact that they said this. And again, we don't know all the documentation of, kind of like Elder Bednar. Was he waiting to be acted upon, or was he being proactive and saying, "Hey, I was told to do this. Where do I find this? Where do I do this?" Back to my husband. He's a recent new hire, and he was getting an email from the HR department or whatever that he needed a certification to be an employee. And he thought he had already taken care of it, so he was ignoring it. And finally, his boss emailed him and saying, "Hey, I just got a call from HR that you need this." And so now he's down, and then it turns out now he asks, "Well, what exactly is it?" And and he's got 30 days to get this taken care of. It's just a certification for IT. He really thought he had it already, or it needed to be updated or whatever. So I think there's some accountability of your own to make sure that you have your ducks in a row. So I agree that he had some responsibility up until the comments about his presentation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's the whole point of the discrimination is it's all circumstantial, and most often they win because people want to believe that that's what was going on. And, and back to where it was so grossly mishandled, 50, 60 years ago, I think our society has swung so hard to the other side that they're so quick to agree with it. And I think a lot of cases they get settled out of court because they can't really prove one way or the other, but their name is being dragged through the mud.
Right.
And so they settle.
Right. All right. I only have about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
So I think we have a lot of good things, and we answered the questions that we have. The doohickey problem is due next week, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And I thought that I would be the first one. I'll type up all the stuff and everything. So if you want to give me your thoughts and notes and send those to me in email, then I will type up the paper and do that. Submit that first one.
So is that what we're supposed to do? Is we're all? I knew that there has to be a group paper, but I didn't know that we all needed. I didn't know if we just needed it verbally, or is it easier for us just to?
It'd probably be easier for us, in my opinion, to just type up your notes and then I can consolidate it from the standpoint of sitting in time and talking and translating it and writing notes and stuff.
Okay. And
it's easier for me.
Oh, and then am I understanding it correctly that we need to identify 3 HR issues and then like come up with 4 solutions for each one?
Yes, I believe so, and I think it's just over the things that we've covered so far, which is the management
and
performance, operations, and then the harassment. So I think those are the only ones that we have, the 3 problems and then 4 solutions. So
is it 3 problems total, or like I have to find 3 problems, you have to find 3 problems? Because really it wasn't.
I think
as a group.
Yeah, 3 problems total.
Okay.
I think that's what I think too. Yeah.
And then, like you said, as you consolidate, because we're all going to view it a little bit differently, and.
Right.
All right.
So how does that sound?
That's good. Can you send? Do we all have each other's emails? Like, can you send a reminder?
Yeah, I'll send you a reminder.
That's what we want to do. And
then, when would you like me to send you the reminder? Do you want it like now, and then you have it in your inbox, or do you want me to send you next week?
Now would be fine. Thank you. And then we're meeting Thursdays, right? Because this actually works really well. I got up early yesterday, but because I couldn't remember, but that's okay. Yep. It's not too early.
All right, perfect. Yeah, let's do Thursdays. So then next week we're talking about the laws of harassment, right?
I think so.
I haven't looked ahead.
Yeah,
so I'm going to agree with you.
Laws of harassment.
Yep, perfect. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
All right, have a good day, folks.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.